What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I thought it could be fun to take a look back at some of my favorite shots from the last 12 months and do a little bit of a breakdown and show you guys how I achieved some of these shots that I'm about to show you. So I have 10 or 11 different shots that I really like from the last year. I'm going to be going over the rigs I used, like camera, lenses, that sort of thing. And also a look at the color grade, compositing, and any other effects I used. This isn't going to be a tutorial of any kind, and I'm going to try not to ramble too much. I'm just going to keep it like a brief overview. So yeah, I hope you guys find this helpful. First off, I have a couple shots here. This one's from a school project. It's kind of a transition from a static tripod shot into a security room. Let's jump into Blender. So yeah, just a pull back with the camera. Looks like I added some camera shake as well. And then some wires on the ground, chairs, and then these monitors here. Really the only thing I'm going to be going over is these monitors. Everything else here are just free 3D models I dropped in, including these monitors, but I replaced the screen with footage we shot. Me and my friends shot a bunch of different clips, and then we added ourselves in on these monitors. I added some lights for visual interest and these cords on the ground, which I think are really cool. I set the depth of field to an aperture of 1, which makes it so everything's blurry, and the point of focus is just set on these monitors, so that just hides all the imperfections in the rest of the scene, takes the audience's attention to how screwed up everything is over here on the edges of the frame. But yeah, that's about it in Blender. The rest of it was just done in DaVinci Resolve. I just put a little bit of a color grade on it, and then to get the transition to happen between the static shot and the pull back into the security room, it was literally just a crossfade. So I just overlaid the static shot and lined everything up, and then threw a little crossfade transition on there, and I think it turned out alright. So that's the first shot. This next one here is this pyramid shot. So yeah, it's basically one of my friends standing in front of a burning pyramid. This was another school project. My friends shot this just out in a park. And then in the DaVinci color page, I used a magic mask to remove the background. So if we go into Blender, this is what's going on. This is super screwed up because a lot of these files were saved on a different computer. These pink things here are supposed to be, I think, just smoke plume, green screen assets, and maybe a fire asset that I put. Yeah, this pyramid I built real quick and then threw a wood texture on it. And there's this, which is some fog. And then we have the camera, and I added this cube here for a little bit of foreground interest as well. So yeah, a lot of this work happened in After Effects actually. We took the shot from Blender, which this is what it is supposed to look like. You can see we put the embers there. There's some fire and some smoke. That's what those purple things were earlier. And in After Effects we added some more embers and stuff in the foreground, and then in DaVinci we color graded it and just added some more effects and made it look a lot cooler. And then for this next one here, we have this one from a travel video I posted over summer, and I wanted to create a cool transition between different locations featured in the video. So here's how I did that. We start in Greenland, and then we have this shot of a plane, and the camera goes into the plane. You see me on the plane. There's no one else on there, which was a major oversight on my part. And then the camera flips around and goes into the next shot. And I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Alright, here we are. I had to do this in 2 separate shots, so this part is the exterior of that transition. I have the plane following this curve here, and then the camera slowly just tracks in towards the plane. For the sky, I used a free Blender add-on that gives you realistic skies and backgrounds. and I think it worked nice. And then I created my own clouds in the foreground using a volume. You can see the setup here. It's just a noise texture that tells Blender where the clouds should show up. The camera kind of just crashes into the plane, and that's how I transitioned to the next shot. Okay, this looks a little crazy. This was a model I had to buy. They didn't have a good free plane interior model, so this was like 20 bucks, I think. I had to do a lot of work on this to get the setup to look good, because it was literally just the plane interior. So I added like I added these two cubes for the front and back, so those hide. If I had that cube, you can see it's just black in the background. So I added that in to make it look like the plane continued on and didn't just end into a void. And then I did that on the front as well. And I got super lazy, so for the clouds, I just threw in a couple images of clouds instead of actually putting a sky in the background. Oh, and then I had to add all these lights in the background too. And then for me, that's just a green screen video I dropped in. As the animation plays, the camera flips around, and we see this screen here, which we can only see in rendered view. So for the screen, I already knew what clip I wanted to transition into, so I brought that video in, and then I created this screen texture, like a grid texture, using these wave things. I don't really know exactly what I did here. This was a while ago. Somehow this all works. And then I put a layer of glass over the screen and then made these borders to make it more realistic. Also, after I finished making this, I realized none of the other chairs have screens on the back. Another major oversight. Apparently I'm just full of those. But all in all, I don't think it looks too bad. Another thing I'll touch on real quick is the camera movement. I don't know how to animate at all. I don't know what the hell any of these graph things mean, but I literally just messed around with them till it looked smooth, and I guess it worked. But if you ask me how I did this, I won't be able to tell you because it was pure trial and error. And then to create the transition, make it a little smoother between the outside and the inside of the plane, I just dropped on like a zoom in transition in DaVinci, and then I color graded. I added a lens reflection effect and some camera lens distortion and chromatic aberration, which you can see on the edges here. Then I just did a crossfade here into the next shot, and that's about it. I think it turned out nice. Alright, we got a few more to go here. None of these next shots involve Blender at all, which will make it a lot easier to explain how I did them. So this one, this is me picking up hair off a shower drain. That one was pretty easy to do. I just bought a bunch of skewers and taped them together into a grid pattern, and then set my camera on the floor of the shower with a wide angle lens and put the grid on top, and then added a little bit of light, and this is what we're left with. And then we have this shot here, which is the camera zooming in to the earth. That one was really easy to make. One of the easiest ones I'm going to be touching on today. I did it in Google Earth Studio. If you're looking to learn 3D, it's one of the easiest tools to get started on, figure out how these softwares work. But yeah, I just animated the camera to do a little swirl and zoom in. I think I added camera shake and obviously color graded the hell out of it in DaVinci and put on some lens distortion and chromatic aberration, and it looks pretty good. This next shot here is another one of my favorites. This was for a music video for a class I did back in March, I think. For this sequence, I just went around Chicago and shot a bunch of different crosswalks. I'd just take a video and wait for it to count down. Did that in maybe 5 or 6 different places. And I think I'd cut between shots every other frame. And I'd layer the shots on top of one another and then lower the transparency to make it so I could see both the shots. And then I'd line them up to make sure it wasn't jittering all over the place. And then once everything was done, I added a zoom in and color graded, and then added lens distortion and chromatic aberration again, and I think it turned out nice. This next shot here is super similar to the last one, another like flickery jumping around effect. For this one, I didn't use video at all. I just went into the grocery store and took photos. I think I took one giant photo of like the floor to ceiling section of the aisle, and then I'd zoom in like crazy because the photos had enough resolution to do that. I'd zoom in and highlight each individual product, and then every couple frames I'd like slide the image over so the next product was in the middle, and then I added like a vignette and some sound effects, and that's it. Okay, this one here is pretty funny. This was for a class project where you had to create like goofy looking shots. I thought it would be fun to have a shot inside the microwave. I just really wanted to do that for some reason, and I was trying to think of a way to do it without actually turning the microwave on with my camera inside it. And what I came up with was I created a thing using like the rolling part under the microwave tray that I elevated up with skewers and then put the tray on top of, and then I taped a phone charger to the tray and like spun it back. And I shut the microwave door a little bit so there was a little bit of a gap where I could pull the cord out, and I just slowly pulled the cord while it was filming and the tray rotated around. But yeah, it was really fun to get that shot because I just like how unique it is. I haven't really seen anything else like it. Even though it doesn't look that great, it was still a fun creative challenge. Alright, next shot here. Me turning on the stove and then boiling water. I don't know if this actually looks like boiling water to anyone. I hope it does. But this was literally just a glass of sparkling water with a light underneath. I think it was my phone flashlight. And then I dropped baking soda in the water and it would start bubbling like crazy. And I filmed it with my camera with a 60mm macro lens. And I wanted the lens to focus a little bit closer than it actually could. So I did this by making like a DIY extension tube using gaff tape. So I just wrapped tape around the lens and had it disconnected from the camera with a little bit of a gap. And that lets everything focus a little bit closer, and you can get these crazy shots doing that. And I'll show you one more in a little bit. This shot here is another crazy close-up macro shot. It's me dropping grains of salt on pretzels I made. It was the same setup as the last one where I just taped the lens to my camera instead of actually screwing it in and mounting it properly. You do need to use a tripod if you're doing this because the camera will focus so close up and everything will be so magnified that you just don't know what the hell you're looking at most of the time. And also the footage is going to be so shaky if you don't use a tripod. So yeah, I think this is one of the coolest shots I've gotten. It was a pretty simple setup. I don't even think I used lights at all. I think it was just natural light. So yeah, that was a really fun one. And this one here is just kind of for shits and giggles. It's a POV shot, and I just used a beanie that I pulled down over my hair and then put my camera on my face and just wrapped tape around it. I think it looks great. It's not safe at all. I definitely don't recommend it to anyone, but it works in a pinch for sure. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little sporadic and not well thought through, but yeah. If you guys want to see like a more granular look at some of these shots, I'm happy to make individual videos for any of these shots as well, where I do a deeper dive into how exactly I created them. More of a tutorial style. But yeah, I thought a general breakdown would be fun. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.